I have a problem.
What's your problem?
Well, this is the 5th podcast, right?
Yeah.
The problem is we're recording this before the 4th podcast.
Yeah. Okay.
And the 4th podcast is going to have Mr. Jamie Morgan on it. The man, the myth, the legend.
Yeah.
And we're recording this one before we record that one. And so we have to pretend the podcast is already done. You think you can do that?
Maybe.
Maybe. You know what? Didn't that last podcast go great with Jamie?
Yeah.
Morgan Just Games.
Yeah.
And it was just it was something. And he said words. he said words, and we gained a lot of insight into how different people grow up differently with different different video gaming experiences.
Yeah.
Because that's what the podcast was about.
Yeah, it was really cool when he said the words.
He said the words in that thing. That thing he said. That thing he said was very interesting. Remember that thing? That thing was so interesting. You I don't know if you were still here, but or if you heard it, but he said that was so interesting. This is Mr. Gigabytes, and this is the Gigsplained podcast. With me, as always, is my sidekick Serenity.
Hello, lovely people.
And she actually brought a topic today. It only took 5 episodes, but she's got a topic, and she's ready to go. And what is that topic?
Star Trek.
Star Trek. It's interesting because we're recording this on a Saturday. Every Saturday, we get some pizza, we get some snacks, and we sit down and watch episodes of Star Trek. And right now we're going through Enterprise, and we've seen, she's seen some episodes of the original series, and we've watched all of Lower Decks and all of Strange New Worlds. So she's seen New Trek. We're starting to get into some of the old Trek, but then if you know the timeline, Enterprise is the first in the Star Trek timeline, not to air, but it's kind of a prequel to the original series and that type of thing. But it goes Enterprise, then it goes Discovery, then it's Strange New Worlds, then it's the original series.
Yeah.
And then it's in order from there, basically. So, and we're sort of watching them in order, but they have seen she's seen Strange New Worlds, and we're in the 3rd season of Enterprise, and we're in and you've seen Lower Decks repeatedly.
Yes.
So what do you think of it? What so far, from what the Star Trek that you've seen, what do you think of it?
Well, I'm gonna focus on Lower Decks for now, but I think Lower Decks is like funny and like entertaining.
It's funny and entertaining in what way? I mean, it's a cartoon.
Yeah.
So, and people say it's a love letter to Star Trek.
Yeah.
So you like Harry Potter too.
Yeah, but the funny thing is, I've only read like half, like a book and a half.
Right. Have you seen any of the movies?
Nope.
Haven't seen any of the movies.
None of the movies.
Honestly, the books are better than the movies, I think, especially when you get into the later ones. So, reading the books before the movies, that's probably the way to experience Harry Potter. But the thing with Star Trek, because it's a TV show, you just get more content. Let's just take Lower Decks, for example. You have 10 episodes of Lower Decks in a season.
Yeah.
They're a half-hour show.
Yeah.
Which means that it's 5 hours of content every season. So that's a 5-hour movie every season.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I couldn't sit in a theater for that long. Not consecutively.
Yeah.
So I like a TV show format a little better. And you got something to look forward to every week.
Yeah.
Which is cool. What do you like about Enterprise? Let's put it that way. Because not every Star Trek fan likes Enterprise.
Well, it starts out slow,
It really does.
Yeah. The thing I don't like about how they changed the song, because I honestly liked the original song instead of the upbeat version. But otherwise, Star Trek Enterprise is very entertaining. And T'Pol and Hoshi is my favorite characters.
In that show.
Yep.
How about in Lower Decks? What's your favorite characters in Lower Decks?
Tendi.
Tendi?
Yes.
Yeah, you actually cosplayed as Tendi.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I don't think we got your green skin quite right. I've seen some cosplayers somehow get that it's a really natural green skin look, and yours was more Frankenstein's monster, but that's more down to our inability to understand how to mix that paint right. So
Yeah.
but yeah, you went trick or treating last year as Tendi.
Yep.
And April, your younger sister,
Yeah.
she's 9. She went as Dr. T'Ana, which is who is a Cation, which is basically a cat person.
Yep.
And that's her favorite character
Yep.
from Lower Decks. And for sure, Lower Decks is the show that you guys have been watching the most.
Yeah.
You guys will watch it over and over and over again.
Yes.
And it's unfortunate that there's only one more season coming.
Yeah.
So that'll be, hopefully they'll pick up another animated Star Trek series, because animation is cheaper than doing live action.
True.
So what about Strange New Worlds? You've seen both seasons of Strange New Worlds. What do you think of that?
I think it's cool.
Who are your favorite characters on that? Uhura?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I like Uhura. Celia Rose Gooding did that really good. Hey, tell people what you listen to. What's in your playlist that's related to Star Trek Strange New Worlds?
That one playlist I have on YouTube Music is just
Subspace.
Yeah, Subspace Rhapsody.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, I actually listen to it too. It's really, really good, and I've seen so many haters saying I don't like that. I don't like the musical thing, and like, dude, it's so different, and music has been a part of Star Trek since day one.
Yeah,
it's just not been that big of a thing since day one, and I think that Seth MacFarlane, who does the Orville, which you also like.
Yes.
You've seen all 3 seasons of that. I think he's a musical guy. I think there was a missed opportunity there for him to be the first to do a musical, but honestly, with the way the Orville's been treated as kind of this hand-me-down from Fox to Disney to whatever.
Yeah.
That's been a problem. From, that sort of quashes the flexibility and the creativity aspect of it.
Didn't Orville used to be on Hulu?
Orville still is on Hulu, I think.
No,
it's at least on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it's on Disney, not Hulu.
The 4th season's coming for Orville.
Yeah.
It's being teased, and there are active negotiations going on, and Disney has not said that it is canceled for sure. But Seth MacFarlane himself has teased that, yes, he thinks there's going to be a 4th season. And like I said, they're in active negotiations.
Dang.
So stay tuned, I guess. But
yeah.
Here's there's an episode you haven't seen of Star Trek that made me take calculus in high school.
It did?
Yes. And it's only in the opening. The entire scene is just in the opening of this of the episode. It was this kid who's probably 10 or 12 years old maybe. He's running down the hallway, and his mom comes and says, and He says, "What are you doing? The teacher said you ran out of class," and he says, "I don't want to. I don't want to do that. School is boring, or not boring, but I just it's too hard, and I can't do it." And the mom says, "Well, everybody has to have a basic understanding of calculus." And I'm like, "He's 12 years old.
Yeah.
Why do I not know calculus?" And it turned out that calculus was a much harder class than I initially thought. Even though I'm good at math, and I got by sort of with calculus with a kind of a D average, it was really tough. But that sort of leads us into our next topic, which I actually didn't have written down. We sort of covered it in pieces a little bit, but what's been in my orbit lately with PBS and NPR, and they've been talking about it. Even Bill Maher's been talking about it, talking about education. And I just so happen to have a student next to me.
Oh, wow.
Who experiences education in the district that I grew up in.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Oh.
It was the same. It's the same district. So we have a unique opportunity here to speak on how it's improved or not improved or whatever over the years. The same district, same school district, same schools even sometimes that your mom and I went to. And get this, your grandparents went to the same school district as well. So I'm going to have to speak for them a little bit, but we have 3 generations of people being in the same school district in our family.
Dang.
Yeah. So we'll probably have to continue this conversation at some other point as well. But let's just cover it a little bit because it's being talked about. What's being talked about is there are certain districts that they have problem schools, right? So certain schools are in poorer neighborhoods. Certain schools are in richer neighborhoods, and then you have charter schools, and you have all this. You have homeschooling, and you have all this stuff all over the place, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's trying to solve the same problem. We want education to be better. Well, there are definite problems in the educational system, but when you look at the people who have gone through the education system and how they've been brought up and the environment around education and how that's changed, it has really evolved. I don't know. I don't know what the word is for it. People think it's for the worse. And maybe it has in some cases, but getting back to bring this back around to what I initially said real quick, the poor schools that have the poor kids have a worse education than the schools that are in the rich neighborhoods, right?
Yeah.
There are good schools, there are bad schools, there's, all kinds of things. Number one, it's surprising to me because you've been to 2 different... I went to 2 different elementary schools. You went to 2 different elementary schools.
Yep.
And it's the same, generally speaking. The education, the quality of education in Sioux Falls, South Dakota is consistent across across schools, I think. Now, that's not to say that there aren't problems, and trust me, we'll get into those in a minute. But what is surprising that Sioux Falls has poor schools and rich schools. The poor schools do about the same as the rich schools.
Yeah.
Both of the schools, so you went to
Yeah.
Hayward and Hawthorne.
Yeah.
And both of those schools are in poor districts.
I think so, yeah.
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 I went to Renberg and Lowell. Your mom went to Lowell.
April went to Lowell for like preschool.
Yeah, for preschool because they
Yeah.
were full at Hawthorne.
Yeah.
And it's no matter where you go, it's just down to the individual teachers.
Yeah.
Depending on how they manage the classroom and how they, and that's something you're never going to change. You're going to have good teachers, you're going to have bad teachers. As I say, with all professionals, whether they be doctors or teachers or lawyers, half of them are below average, which is supposed to be a joke, but that's mathematically that's true.
I mean, while we're on the topic of schools, I saw this podcast short thing. I think it was a podcast thing, where two people were like talking, and they were talking about like a school where you can like customize your desk. You can show up whenever you want, leave whenever you want. You can like choose to learn whatever you want, and the school like is like doing like perfectly.
Well, that's a good segue into charter school. That sounds like college, though. You can learn what you want to learn.
No, but I think it was like a high school, maybe.
Yeah. And there are all kinds of experiments to try and improve graduation rates and improve the way kids learn. And there are, if it's not guided by people who understand education on a fundamental level, it's not, generally it's bad.
Yeah.
The other part of it is there are charter schools that basically they follow the law, but they don't provide a quality education. That's a problem. Any private school doesn't have to take you. Doesn't have to take your student. They don't have to. You can enroll them in there, and they can say, "I'm sorry, it's just not working out," and kick your kid out of school. Public schools cannot do that.
Yeah.
Not on like a permanent basis. And so they've had to come up with new and creative ideas for problem children, things like that.
Yeah.
Let me tell you a story about a friend of mine.
Okay.
Well, he's a former friend of mine. In high school, we went to grade school together. Through junior high school, we were friends, and then all of a sudden, we went to the same high school. And I knew he went to the same high school for about a month or a couple of months, and then he disappeared. And I thought, well, he just moved away, right?
Yeah.
That must have been it. We didn't really have any classes together. We didn't really, we weren't in the same circles. What had happened was I learned I met up with him at our high school reunion.
Mm-hmm.
And he was telling me about it. And what had happened was he really didn't like the classroom setting. He hated his fellow students. He had a few friends. He had some friends that he liked and whatnot.
Yeah.
He didn't really have classes with them or anything like that. And he really hated being in class. It did not suit him. So what he did, and this is actually kind of genius.
What?
He would act out in class and get sent to the office every single day. And so they eventually just had him in ISS because he would act out all the time, and he would do his work in ISS. He'd get it done in a few hours, maybe an hour or two, and then he'd have the rest of the day to goof off. He'd do something else or go to the library or whatever.
Dang.
And that was how he spent his all 4 years of high school. He was in ISS all 4 years, and he graduated with a better grade point average than I did.
Dang.
It's like, man, I should have thought of that. Well, and here's the thing. It's interesting that, and there was a school, this mythical school for all of the bad kids in Sioux Falls.
Okay.
And nobody knew what it was called, but they could point to the building and say that's where all the bad kids go, and that's the special school for the special kids. You know, special in air quotes.
Yeah.
But what it became was when they moved out of that building, I assume it was that building, into an old elementary school building called Joe Foss. They called that the new special school. That was where the people who were really struggling, who didn't get along in a classroom, who had bad behaviors and whatnot, that's where they could go and finish school. Joe Foss moved to Axtell Park, and it was basically like that, like my friend in ISS. They could self-pace. They weren't in a classroom environment. They could pick where to study. They had a lot of flexibility, and as long as you did your work and did what you were supposed to, they left you alone. You could attend classes if you wanted to. So what you were describing is a lot like a lot like what the Sioux Falls School District actually set up for kids who aren't good in a classroom environment.
Nice.
And it's like, if I had that when I was growing up, I would have chose that. That's what I would have wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I might have graduated with better grades instead of having to sit through and be bored in the classroom, and just like as we were reviewing and waiting for the dumb students to catch up. So, because that was my biggest issue in school. I'd be all excited for the new school year, and the first thing we did for the first 2 weeks to a month is review everything we learned in the past 6 years of education, starting at addition. It's like, and I give math as an example because it's like there's clear delineation in math. You know, you start from addition, you go to subtraction, then you go to multiplication, division, things like that. And it's like, and it bored me to tears. I just demotivated me so bad. The thing is it took until junior high school for them to figure that out. They figured out that, oh, wait, he's being bored waiting for everybody else. Well, let's just give him packets and self-pace in math.
Yeah.
And I had the same teacher for math for 2 years, 7th and 8th grade. My class only went to junior high school for 2 years because they moved 9th grade from the junior high school to the high school. Because at 6th grade, when I was growing up, 6th grade was almost a separate, even though I still went to the elementary school, 6th grade was almost a separate thing educationally. You were when you went from 5th grade, it was still very elementary school. When you went to 6th grade, they actually had lockers, and they were preparing you for junior high school. And that was the whole 6th grade experience. And it was completely different, and there was more moving around, and there was all kinds of things happening. Well, they moved 6th grade. They cut 6th grade off of the elementary schools and put it into middle school. Called it middle school.
Yeah.
And that's what you've been experiencing is middle school. And you've been going to Patrick Henry for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
Yep. And it's been absolute HE double hockey sticks.
Middle school was not a fun thing for me either. I was not happy. You're going through, everybody's going through adolescence. Everybody's going through this, this time in their lives where it's completely new and completely different, and hormones and the whole ball of wax.
Yeah.
And a lot of people started in 6th grade. Some people started later, but it's in that sort of 6th through 8th grade time frame is when it really starts happening. And so I think it was probably smart to go to that middle school system, but although I suspect that, and not just I suspect, I believe that they gave a different reason for doing it at the time. The stupid thing they did, they shut down an entire middle school and overloaded a middle school that sort of served the same area. They looked at the middle school map and considered it redundant. And so they closed one middle school, made it the special school, and that really put pressure on the other central middle school. Now, you went to Patrick Henry, which is a little further south. It still sort of serves this central area. We're actually closer to a Edison, which is a different middle school, which is kind of in the same area as Patrick Henry. The middle school, the junior high school that I went to, is literally 2 blocks away.
Nice.
They closed but they closed that down.
Oh.
You could walk to school every day.
Dang.
Even when it was 20 below, you could have walked to school. But no, they have to bus you across town to go to Patrick Henry, and they're busing you all the way over to Patrick Henry when Edison is actually closer. So here's the other thing we could do. I came to you, do you remember? That I came to you and said, for high school, I will send you to any high school you want to go to in town.
Yeah, I remember that.
Now, believe it or not, I was one of the students that started that. Started that ability to go to any school that you chose.
You did?
Yes. They had the Washington High School used to be downtown. It was within walking distance of my old house.
Okay.
And I went to school there for 1 year. But they had already redrawn the districts so that I was in the Lincoln district, which I know this doesn't make any. It's a school that's halfway across town from where I used to live.
Yeah.
And so I was technically in the Lincoln district, but we got what was called an attendance exception. We applied for it, fought for it, got an attendance exception for that first year to go to Washington because it was within walking distance. Why wouldn't you go to Washington?
Yeah.
I had other friends in the neighborhood that ended up going to Lincoln because they didn't want to bother with it. There was too much of a hassle, or they didn't know about it. So at the end of the year, I would have to go. The agreement was that, okay, you can go to Washington this year, but then after that, you're going to have to go to Lincoln because we're closing down the old Washington building. We've built a new Washington school that's across town on the east side of town. And we're building another school that's just like it on the west side of town and whatnot, but you're in the Lincoln district. You're going to go to Lincoln the fall in your sophomore year. That was the agreement. With the help of my Spanish teacher, I took a year of Spanish. Hola. We were able to convince the district to extend that attendance exception for the other 3 years. And I was one of the few students that was able to do it because I had the endorsement of my Spanish teacher. I was able to go and graduate from Washington High School, and
Nice.
I went to Washington all 4 years. So I went to the old Washington for a year, and then I went to the new Washington for 3 years.
Nice.
Then my sister, because we were still in the Lincoln district, she had to go to Lincoln. When my parents moved out of that house to another house, my brother had to go to Roosevelt.
Dang.
And he didn't graduate.
Why?
School sucks. See, my parents grew up in a time when there was really only like 2 high schools.
Yeah.
There was Washington, there was Lincoln. That was it. That was it in town. So there really, and the Lincoln was considered the rich kids' school because, and all the poor people went to Washington. And it was still kind of that way when I went to school. When my brother went to school, the Lincoln was, I still had this in my head that the Lincoln was kind of this rich kid school. And that was still kind of true because we have your cousin, my first cousin, your second cousin. My sister actually told a story about how she tried to talk to him. And he would be with his friends and he just would completely ignore her, blow her off completely. Yeah, so Lincoln was still kind of this rich kid school. And they built Roosevelt. And I think it was on the south, basically the southwest part of town where all the new houses were going up. And it was a mix of middle class, lower middle class, upper middle class. It was just kind of a melting pot of different people who had had different upbringing. They had rich kids with poor kids with everybody. It just kind of it was that way at Washington too. There were a few rich kids. They were sort of in the minority. There were a lot of sort of middle class kids, and there were a lot of poor kids at Washington. So the rich kids were kind of in the minority. Yeah, we had our problems, but nobody really picked on anybody. We were all kind of when I got to high school, people stopped picking on you. For the most part. I did get a little bit, but it wasn't nearly as bad as middle school or junior high. So something you have to look forward to is maybe people won't pick on you so much. Maybe. Unless Lincoln is pretty much the same way as it always has been, and it's just this rich kid bully place, whatever.
So one of my friends is going to Roosevelt, and people have been telling them that it's like the worst school that you could go to, and
maybe that hasn't changed since when your uncle went to Roosevelt, because he had a hard time. He had a hard time with bullies. He had a hard time. He had his friends. Because that's the thing. You're always going to have your friends, but there are people that maybe like I don't know. It's hard for me to speak from that experience. This is why we probably have to revisit this and go and bring other people on board, and bring my brother, bring my I don't know. I don't know if I'll get my sister on, but bring your grandmother or grandfather on and say, hey, what was it like?
Yeah.
But anyway, so the schools were all different, and now we have Jefferson, and I am completely blank on that one. It's built in the northwest corner of Sioux Falls. So we have Washington, Lincoln, Jefferson, and Roosevelt. Gee, I wonder where they got that from. You don't suppose Mount Rushmore? That was name the high schools after some famous presidents who happened to be on Mount Rushmore. Although to be fair, I poke a little fun, but I actually voted to have it named Jefferson.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I said it just makes sense. We already have Washington, Lincoln, Roosevelt. They're all on Mount Rushmore. Let's put Jefferson on there too, I guess. It's just makes sense. The fifth high school, I don't know. We'll have to pull that one out of a hat. Here's the thing. I say fifth high school. They've already built a fifth high school.
Oh, they did?
You don't know what that one is?
No.
New Tech.
New Tech?
New Technology High School.
Okay.
So you can actually enroll in that. It's an optional thing. You do have to not have flunked any of your classes.
Shush.
But you can. But it's a vocational education. They still do all the regular courses and whatnot, but they basically bus people either in the morning or the afternoon and to New Tech to do vocational training. You still have to be enrolled in high school, but you go to the high school for your core classes, and then you go to New Tech for vocational training, and it counts as, I don't know exactly how it counts, but it counts as a way to do it. Now, the other thing, one of the things that Sioux Falls has done right is they brought that vocational training into the regular high school. So you can actually, they brought back shop class, and they brought back what we used to call home economics. They call it, what do they call it?
Facts, maybe?
Facts, yeah. Where you get to learn how to cook and clean and balance a checkbook and that type of thing. And so,
yeah,
I've got a story about that. I took home ec in, it was required at the time in junior high school. I was kind of a troublemaker. I don't know. I was in that class. I really put pressure on the teacher because I was a terrible cook.
Oh no.
Forgot to put the baking soda in the, I forgot, or no, there was a baking powder. So we forgot to put the baking powder in the brownies, and we doubled up on the baking soda, and because we forgot the baking powder. And the brownies were the worst brownies I've ever eaten. Nobody could stomach them. Yeah, I was bad at cooking. But my mom had already taught me how to sew. I'd sewn a few things with a sewing machine. I asked the teacher, because number one, we were too poor to afford these fanny packs. Remember, this is the early 90s.
Yeah.
So these fanny packs, they were so in fashion. And we were too poor to afford that. So what my mom did is we found a pattern. And it was, I think my mom and my teacher were able to figure it out between them. They found a pattern so that instead of sewing this, because you had the option of making a denim. It was kind of a fanny pack, but it was a barrel type fanny pack. It was round. And it was like, no, I don't want anything that unfashionable. That's terrible. And it wasn't challenging enough. So we found a pattern to make a fanny pack, and I took a green nylon belt type of a thing.
Yeah.
Sewed the denim onto the nylon belt, because denim was really the fashion in the 90s, and made a fanny pack out of denim and a green belt that clipped. And what I did was what was happening when I was, at the time I was making this fanny pack, I got picked on in junior high school, like I said, really bad. It was not in a good time.
Yeah.
What they started doing is they started snapping. They would snap coins at me, and they could get, sometimes they could get it going really hard, and it hit you in the back of the head, and it kind of hurt a little bit. But what I would do is I would take the coins, well, no matter what denomination it was. I was hit with 50-cent pieces, silver dollars, all kinds of stuff. It's just I would get hit by it. I'd look around on the floor while I'm walking down the hallway for where it landed. I'd pick it up, put it in my pocket. One day, I even paid for lunch with it.
Dang.
So, with all the money that I'd gathered, and it's like, well, that's not working. So they I don't know, the cabal of bullies got together and went, well, that's not working. That's just stupid. Well, they started throwing pens and pencils at me. And they'd whip them down the hall, and sometimes they weren't even directed at me. Sometimes they were directed at other kids that were getting bullied. I wasn't alone in this. But I would take the pencils and pens, because I just finished my fanny pack, and I'd take the pens and pencils and put them in my fanny pack because I recognize that they have value. I wouldn't have, if I needed a pen or a pencil, I'd just go in my fanny pack and use the one that was thrown at me. Well, what I noticed was I'd get to class with some of these bullies. They wouldn't have a pen or pencil for class because they threw it at me. And so I said, okay, well, you need a pencil. All right, 5 cents for a pencil, 10 cents for a pen. I wouldn't let them go without paying. A couple of them tried to say, well, I'll pay you back. I'll pay you back. Nope. Not going to do it. I'm not going to pay. I'm not going to give you something you threw at me.
Yeah.
You need to pay for it now. And most of them could get a nickel or a dime or borrow a nickel or a dime from somebody, and then they'd pay me. And yeah. So I was like, yeah, okay. That ended the bullying. that was the end of them throwing stuff at me.
Dang.
So that's a little fun fact about your dad. But we've sort of gotten off track a little bit, as usual.
Yeah. Should be expecting this by now.
Yeah. But I've got interesting stories to tell. You know, I'm becoming an old man. I've got to tell these stories and get them right. Because I'm going to tell them 4, 5, 6, 7 times.
Old man.
We're going to circling back all the way back to the beginning of this podcast. The issue with these districts that have got poor schools and rich schools and this type of thing, that happens in Sioux Falls too. But the way Sioux Falls did it, solved that problem, is that you could open enroll your child, and that was something that came about after my time. Basically, I was one of the people that helped bring that about. Because the biggest complaint that the school district got was, well, all of my kids' bullies are going to this school. I don't want him going to this school or her going to this school. I want them going to a different school for their safety.
Yeah.
And that's why I said I will give you the choice. You can go to whatever school you want in town. I would like to see you go to Jefferson, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Then we will have hit them all. Click them all. So they solved the issue with the bad schools and the good schools with open enrollment. So the parents could kind of shuffle they could take their kids around to different schools. You're not doing great at Roosevelt? Okay. Maybe you can go to Washington, or maybe you can go to Lincoln, or maybe you can go to Jefferson, or maybe you can go to, do something else. Maybe a different school will help.
Yeah.
And there are certain restrictions on that. If you're not in district, you can't be bused. The school district will not bus you to a district you're not assigned to. But especially once you get to high school, that's really not a problem. The child is old enough to take the city bus, and the city bus will take you to school.
Yeah.
Or in high school you're going to be driving, or you might have a friend who drives, or there's ways to get to school. It's a little harder, especially on the parents when it's middle school and grade school, that type of thing. But so that's how Sioux Falls solved it. Now, how some other districts, and so it's really not an issue in South Dakota. But there are these vouchers, school vouchers. And Serenity got an earful from me. We were trying to get to a customer's place because she helps me out with customer. And on the radio, I was listening to Minnesota Public Radio, and they do this program on Fridays called Left, Right, and Center. They started talking about some of these, and it's a national program. The Left, Right, and Center is national. It's a syndicated national program. And they were talking about school vouchers. This lady was screaming really loudly into the radio about how vouchers help parents' choice, and yada da 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 da. Well, here's the problem. if you break the public money that goes to the public schools up into vouchers, yes, that solves one issue where the poor people can get services at a better school. But the problem with the poor schools is they need more money to support to support the children. And that's true in Sioux Falls, that's true in other districts. Hayward and Hawthorne are two of the poorest schools in the district. I mean, Hayward is literally in a trailer park.
Yeah.
It's literally in a trailer park.
I still like that school though.
It's a good school.
Yeah.
But the thing is the Sioux Falls schools do not distribute money evenly. They distribute it as needed. So if you have a school with children that need more help, they put more money into that school. They budget it in a way that they can give more resources to the schools that need it. So that's how you get a consistent education across different schools. And with the addition of the special school, the Joe Foss School, it takes the kids who really struggle away from the students that are fine in that normal school education type thing. So there's a lot of as parents, you have a lot of resources available to you in a place like Sioux Falls. And I don't want you to move here. Not saying just don't just move here for the schools. Winters are cold.
Yes. Yeah, winters are cold.
Winters are very cold. But what I'm saying is that maybe other districts need to start looking at how Sioux Falls handles their school. I think the districts that have the most problems, and understandably there are definitely different challenges than Sioux Falls has. I think it's more of a case of mismanagement. Parents get involved, and the loud parents who got a D average in school and who are not on the side of education, who are not on the side of teachers, who don't understand how this works, get involved and start banning books and thinking, that's going to solve the banning books and shouting teachers down and blaming the teachers. And it's not really the teacher's fault. Not necessarily. You could have a bad teacher here and there, but your kid, these aren't one-room classrooms.
Yeah.
Your kid is not going to have the same teacher over the course of their education. It's a systemic problem. And I think Sioux Falls, between New Tech High School, Joe Foss, and the way they budget the money across the school districts, I think they got a lot of things right.
Yeah.
It has changed. The landscape has changed so much from when my parents went to school to today. And these solutions, led by experts, by the Board of Regents who have been in education, who have made careers out of education, it has been the right thing to do. And so there are still problems, and I'm still fighting for certain things.
Yeah.
I want to give you one example where I was successful. So Serenity School in Patrick Henry did this thing. What was it? Sweeping?
Yep.
Called it sweeping.
Sweep periods.
Sweep period.
Yep.
It was a random time where if they caught you out in the hall, you got instant detention. You had to report. You got a detention card, and you had to go to detention.
Yeah.
And I was really unhappy about that. And Serenity, at the end of the school year, she had been swept a couple of times. She's not a bad kid. At least I don't think you are. You hide it well if you're a really bad kid. So
I'm not that bad of a kid.
Anyway, at any rate, it was for completely innocuous reasons. There was no case to be argued. If you're caught out, you get detention. That's it. No trial, No jury, no nothing.
Yeah, okay, so one time I was in the bathroom because I really had to go, and I exited, and I couldn't go during class because, like, first 10 to 15 minutes, there would be a period where you cannot go out of the classroom for anything because...
So the bathroom emergency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got swept. Straight to the auditorium to pick a time for detention.
So anyway, at the end of the year, she couldn't make a case, she couldn't argue, and I went in, and so she had a couple of detentions, and I said, look, I made my case, I talked to the principal, and I said, look, I would like you to just forgive these detentions for serenity. Her friend also got some detentions for both the same reason and for different reasons.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there to argue for her. I said, look, Serenity's a good kid. She's not. I think the whole sweeping thing really smacks of Germany about 1939. And he got the reference. He understood what I was talking about. We're talking about World War II.
Yeah.
I could say it without, and I might have to delete that word because they don't allow it on YouTube.
Yeah.
But there was a certain dictator around 1939 in Germany.
Yeah.
About 1939, 1944. Really bad guy.
Yep.
Began with an H, ended with a lur. He got the reference because I didn't make the call out to tell him that he was as bad as the dictator. But I said, look, the fact that they can't make a case, they're getting caught out for innocuous reasons. They've only got 3 minutes to get to class. You can't even. A lot of the times you can't even take care of your own business in that amount of time.
Yeah. So
it's like I used to have 5 minutes between class. Well, it was a stretch, but I could get there. So why is it only 3 minutes now? And then when you get caught out, it's instant detention. No, you can't make your case. There's no leniency, no nothing. I said that's extraordinarily dictatorial, and it's a psychological burden on the students.
Yeah, because, like, when I went to the bathroom, I came out, and it was a bathroom near the auditorium. The teachers saw me, and I tried to tell them, well, it was a bathroom emergency. I couldn't really hold it or anything like that. And they're like, yeah, well, we don't make the rules. Just go in there and go get your detention thing.
So yeah, and here it is. These are the teachers saying they don't make the rules. I call bull crap on that. Like,
yeah,
that's just ridiculous. And I said, and I warned the principal. I said, I'm ready to fight for a lot of things. And I said, I haven't made this an issue yet, but if it continues in the next year, I will. And I will go to the school board for it. And the next year, they stopped doing it altogether.
Yeah. Well, they did continue it, but they changed it instead of locking the doors, not letting them in, and giving them detention. The people who do arrive on class on time get sweep tickets. And, like, the late students can still come in and don't get punished. But the students that were on time, they get sweep tickets, and, like, every Friday
it becomes a reward system instead of a punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're on the class on time, then you get a reward. If you're not, then you're not punished, but you don't get that reward.
Yeah, like every Friday they would pick like 5 students out of a bucket and reward them for being on class on time.
See, there you go. See, that's a better system.
Yeah.
That's a more democratic system. And even though you still couldn't make your case, you're also not punished for having an emergency, having a bathroom emergency. You know, it's just like the kids are going through puberty. Things are gonna happen.
Yeah.
You gotta have some leniency here. You gotta give them enough leash to hang themselves. And I get it. You know, the school's kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. You know, they need to crack down on some of the bad behaviors because, like, if you're doing drugs in the bathroom, you're not, and being late to class, well, that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's something you definitely want to crack down on for kids under your care. But the other problem is that most kids are not doing that. And when you assume that they're just bad kids because they're having innocent problems, then you're setting a bad example, and it's a bad precedent. You know, it's the wrong way to treat it. You treat a prisoner, if you treat a prisoner like a criminal, they're going to become even more of a criminal.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just it was the wrong, and I'm glad they reversed course. I didn't know the details until you just told me of how they changed that. I know they got rid of the old system. That's all I knew. So, and it's like, okay, well, I can deal with that.
Okay, so on the bus one morning, in 6th or 7th grade, I was forced to sit in the back of the bus because the front of the bus is like completely full. So no one wants to sit in the back of the bus where all the bad kids are, and I saw someone smoke, like, vaping.
Yeah.
So, and I told on them because that can't really be good for people around them or themselves. And they checked the security cameras, and that kid got punished. And this year, people are leaving their vapes on last year, people were leaving their, vapes on the ground. And it's the same bus that the bus driver uses to pick up elementary school kids. So they're finding the vapes, and
they're finding the vapes on the bus.
Yeah.
On the floor.
Yeah, and then it's bad. And the bus driver didn't care what we did outside the bus. It was inside the bus that was the problem.
Yeah.
Which, yeah. And of course, I dealt with a bunch of people throwing stuff at me and my friends on the bus, not in school. Well, sometimes in school. In 8th grade, it was, like, really bad. Because, it got to, like, the point where people would throw bloody, tampons at me. And, a metal flashlight at one of my friends. Yeah, and... yeah.
But did anything get done about it? That's my question. Because because this happened toward the end of the year, and I just didn't get. I've been so busy. I was ready to go into the principal's office again and have a talk about what's going on the bus, and off the bus. But you sort of kind of solved it yourself by getting off at a later stop.
Yeah.
And then you had to walk a little further, but so all the bad kids, you didn't get off with all the bad kids. You went on to a friend of yours stop and then walked home a little further.
2 friends of mine, yeah.
Yeah.
So, they did get punished. Like, a whole lot of them. They were banned off the bus for, like, a few weeks. And some of them got, like, kicked off the bus completely.
Well, that's as it should be. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good that they're making sure that the bus is safe. The bus should be a safe place.
Yeah.
Honestly, the city bus, I was about ready to have you ride the city bus because you were old enough. All you needed was your student ID.
Which I kept losing.
Yeah, well, don't lose it this year.
I won't. I'll attach it to my backpack. Boom.
But yeah, the student ID, you can ride the city bus for free. And the interesting thing is that there has been your second oldest stepsister rode the city bus, and one of the first times she was on it, there was this creepy guy trying to talk to her, made her really uncomfortable. She told the bus driver about it. He got kicked off the bus instantly. It was like, nope, you're done. Bye.
Dang.
Get off the bus or I'll throw you out. And so the city bus is a very safe place because there's just a zero tolerance policy toward harassment and things like that. And here's a neat thing that you might not know. Your cousin second cousin, third cousin, whatever. He's my second cousin. He must be your third cousin, I guess.
Maybe. Yeah.
But he is actually on the board for Sioux Area Metro. He's on the board. That's his main job. He's also a legislator in the state house.
Nice.
Which is awesome. We have somebody to complain to if
Also,
we don't like something, but we got to bring that back around to the school. But
I mean, like, okay, so here's one rule that I understand, but I don't really think they should, like, make it so far to, like, where you can't even comfort your friend. Like, you can't touch other people, even if it's, like, just, like, a high five or something. It's like, nope, you can't. And, one of my friends was having, like, was, like, on the verge of having a mental breakdown because it was a poetry slam thing. And one of the poems was loud. It's like, bang, 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 and stuff like that. Basically based on school shootings. And, she was, like curling up in a ball, it's like on the verge of tears, and I was like trying to like comfort her, and two of the teachers was like, no, you can't do that, no. So
yeah, there's, like I said, there's still problems with that. But here's where it gets, you actually make a good segue into something that Bill Maher recently said. And he did a new rules on it where the parents are really raising kids to be a little too soft. And I agree with him to a point. I understand we do need to be aware of mental issues with children, that type of thing. But I blame the parents insofar that what they need to do is you have to have rules and boundaries and discipline with your child. You have to be a parent, not a friend.
yeah.
You have to follow through with what you tell them you're going to do all the time.
Yeah.
You have to be fair. You have to be consistent, but you also have to have, you have to have mercy as well, because life's hard. And you are raising another human being to go out into the world you already exist in. Now think about all of the survival skills you need to have.
Yeah.
You have to raise somebody who is capable of surviving this world that you already exist in, and this world kind of sucks. There are good things about it, but it does still kind of suck. And you have to teach them to fight, you have to teach them to speak up, you have to teach them to do, not cower and, ooh, I've got PTSD from a poetry slam. It's like, I get it, okay, you're having a hard time, and there may be a completely legitimate reason for that. But why? Where were the parents before this? Where were they? It's like this kid has got this sort of nervousness around loud noises and whatnot. Were they encouraging it, or were they pushing back on it? Because you have to know the difference. The toilet flushes a little too loudly for you. Oh, come here, give you a hug.
No, that's definitely not.
Yeah, see, that's the point. Like, that's fine when they're real little.
Yeah.
And, they're going through potty training and whatnot. But you have to say, look, face your fear. Face your fear and understand what it's about. Because from understanding, you get rid of your fear. And so these parents that are raising the children to be these soft, squishy people who are not ready for the world, I get where Bill Maher's coming from, because we have raised, and I told your mom this. I said these are people. Before you were born, I said these are people. They need to be raised to be independent. because you can't be their parent for the rest of their life.
Yeah.
That's just not possible. In fact, I really feel for people, for parents of special needs children, like that, where they really can't get along in the world, or they're so autistic they really can't survive in the world without help. What are the options? When the parent is gone, what do you do? Now, fortunately, there are organizations that help, but it still makes me sad about. I really feel for the parents that have to put so much effort into caring for their child, and there are resources, but it's hard. But if you have a normal kid, like you,
Yeah.
I can't even count April in that because she's technically special needs.
Yeah.
But she's not that special needs. She still needs to face her fears. She still needs to confront the things that bother her. And you're going to be doing that for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But if you have a normal kid, you need to raise them. I want to say raise them right, but raising them right is not specific enough. You have to raise them to be an adult.
Yeah.
That is the whole point of having children. They have to be an adult. They have to be tough enough. They have to be smart enough. And they have to be good enough. I think you guys are well on your way. I think we sort of missed the boat with the my two oldest stepchildren. But I think your half brother and you and April, I think we've got a good start.
Yeah.
In fact, your half brother is very very responsible. I'm very proud of him. We've given him a lot of leeway to do basically what he wants to do, to kind of guide his own path. But there are still guardrails in place. There's still, hey, if you want a job and you want a car and you want all this stuff, you have to give priority to your education.
Yeah.
If you fail classes, you can't have a job, you can't have a car, you can't have these nice things. And you're sort of taking away the freedom to be able to do that. So I think we're going to end it there. We're going to have to revisit this topic into more detail, get into real specifics. This was kind of covering it generally, kind of giving some backstory. But for myself and Sidekick Serenity, I've been Mr. Gigabytes.
And this is a Gigsplained podcast.
There you go. Right. We'll see you next time.
Bye.